with the gathering of the information was the fact that it's more of a reaction than being proactive. People are calling for this environment that to be made, but all the measures that they are putting in place are the ones reactionary most of the time. They're just being reactive. It's a concern for me because if you are reacting with the virus, it means it's calling the shots. You are just following what's happening with it. You're not coming up with measures to put in place. That is one of my concerns in South Africa. Although there are measures that they are putting in place, but I still believe that about 60 to 70% of the response is reactive at this point. So that's mostly about what I've done so far. So I've realized that you came up with new measures, new aspects to look at. You said it's medical, non-pharmaceutical movement. The other one I forgot. But so far, those I haven't covered. That would mean I have to change the one that I've dealt with already. Andrew? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think Andrew's just still muted.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was having just a little bit of trouble following you, Shadrach. I'm sorry about that. What I heard you were saying was that you covered quite a lot of government information and reporting, but you mentioned about being reactive or reactionary. Could you just explain that, please?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. What I meant by that is that most of the measures that they put in place to try to combat this pandemic, they're not necessarily preventive measures. They are measures that they are just trying to make sure that they're testing, like they're just reacting to the outbreak. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. I don't know how to put this. Like the measures the government are putting right now, they are also just reacting to the outbreak. It's not necessarily that they are coming up with something to say, you know what, if you do this, we are certain that it will stop the outbreak. Although there are measures like the ones that you are talking about, like closing down the country, which is also trying to stress, trying to cut the spread. But mostly, I still believe that what they are doing, they're just reacting to what the virus is. It's not necessarily trying to stop it.
So could you give some examples? Hi, Shadrach. Could you perhaps give examples of what you mean?
Okay. For example, what they are trying to do most of the time, they're saying they need to test more people. They need to test more people. Yes, testing more people is also part of the solution, but I still believe that testing alone doesn't necessarily mean that you are taking the situation if people are still walking around and infecting others, and if you're not taking the quarantine that you mentioned that the quarantine, people are quarantined, all of them. People are subjected to being quarantined, like mandatory quarantine. So if you just test them, like the case of the guy who was tested in Gauteng, who went to Polokwane, testing only for ranking is still the feed is not followed up by mandatory, what do you call, quarantining. I don't know if the example is clear.
If I understand you're right, because the testing has to also be linked to tracing and so on. That's what you were saying, right? Yes. That does seem to be an issue because although we were told or we heard that there was quite a lot of that South Africa does have some experience because of Ebola. it does seem that the testing has been could be speeded up, if we could put it that way. There is a website called Worldometers. It's World O and then meters. And if you just put in coronavirus into your search box for Google, and you look down the websites, you'll come up with Worldometers. And what it shows also is the number of tests that each country has done, and then also the number of tests per million of the population. So that is, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to. What we would like to do is make a table of some of this data for each country that we will then make part of the our document. But I think you are right, and I think you are also right, in my view, that that the preventative measures, if they are somewhat not fully respected or not fully carried out, then it's going to be more difficult to to really limit the outbreak. Am I getting you right?
Yes, and just on that note, majority of the tests have been done in the private hospitals, which is also call for concern with regard to our government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So when I say something that it's more like they are only reacting to what is happening. On the other hand, like they are also waiting to just mention that we've got this number of people who recovered, but what is it that is actually being put in place by them? Because most of the testing, as far as we see, I think 78% were conducted in the private facilities. Andrew?
I'm being very silly this afternoon. I'm sorry about this. I think I feel a bit tired. I'm sorry.
Hi, guys. Sorry I could not join you. I'm also just here to say I'm jumping into my 4 o'clock meeting. So just to say, Andrew will fill me up on the other.
Okay, thanks,
Okay,
Raymond.
okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Yes, bye. One of the key issues that we will that we think is important in this study is the issue of disparities in of social and economic circumstances and inequality in the society. So I think one of the key issues that you've highlighted will be about how to reconcile the differences and to bring the public and private systems into cooperation for the best of all people. So I think that's a very important element that would be very welcome in your discussion.
Okay.
Are there other aspects that you'd like to perhaps talk about?
There was something else, just since we're speaking about things that or issues that came up, something that I wanted to ask at least is, so I'm sure we've all heard with the whole issue with the Western Cape wanting to sell cigarettes, and now I obviously with my involvement in the education space also heard that the Western Cape is sort of going ahead with their own plans regarding feeding schemes and opening the schools to allow for feeding programs to continue. So there are obviously a lot of clashes between national and provincial government in that regard. And that is a potential issue going forward. And I think on my end, I just wanted to know, do we know of any other countries? I guess I could do a little bit more research, but just do we know of any other countries where those similar clashes have come about, and what has the response been? Because it does have serious implications for how we handle the pandemic.
Kobisha, that is a very important point, and it applies to almost all countries except very small countries. And it depends also on, the reason why that's happening. What we've seen in the United States of America is that the central government has delegated a lot of responsibilities to the states. So in the states, in each of the states, they have been told that they have to procure their own personal protective equipment. And so what's happening is the states are competing with each other for getting more personal protective equipment, and even the respirators for people who are quite sick. And so there is that issue. But there's also the issue of to what extent the country is a federated country or not. So another big problem in India is it's such a big country that only recently, after the shutdown was put in place, did the government say that they want the different states to put together their own plans. But that could be a very, very difficult thing to do, with states making plans that might impact on each other, like, for instance, access and travel. And it might in fact advantage states with better infrastructure, and the opposite with those with low infrastructure. So the way I read the Western Cape example is that they might be thinking about what happens after this lockdown, and that's also something that could be worth thinking about for our country, is what might happen after lockdown, and that would be the one issue, how to unlock the lockdown. On what basis can certain restrictions be lifted? But the other issue is in relation to feeding schemes, is it could be that the Western Cape feel that it's a strategic decision that they would like to make to enable them to feed people. So the interesting thing about the Western Cape would be to see if they open the feeding in schools, if that's just for children, or whether they're also looking at feeding adults. Because one of the key issues that's coming out in India, and it may be happening in South Africa, is where people, they are not working. Maybe they left Gauteng at the beginning of the lockdown, and they may be now in places where there's not enough food, for instance. So, and I think that's something that we can also very usefully take up in South Africa, is the issue of population movement before the lockdown. And then also another issue that we might consider is the issue of migration and migrants, and people who are perhaps they're not officially in South Africa. They don't have ID and so on. So I don't know if these things might be interesting to you to follow up. Of course, the question is whether the Western Cape has got the legal right to go against the national government. We know that South Africa's provinces do have responsibility for rollout of services. But under these circumstances, there is some doubt about that, because you could also look into the legal system, because there have been cases that have gone to the Constitutional Court about legal aspects, including questioning the validity of the lockdown entirely. But we don't want to get too much into the detail of the legislation. But this point about the Western Cape and feeding schemes could be something similar to what's happening in India and what has happened in the United States, where governors of states are saying, well, I won't do this. When Trump said you must all carry on as normal, at least one or two of the governors said, no, we're going to do lockdown, you know. So your question, Kibisa, is really extremely important, because it also links into the possibility of disagreement or dissent, or perhaps even just people not taking issues seriously. So in South Africa, it's not just here, of course. In India, one of the big issues has been, you might have seen on YouTube, and please use YouTube as well, as long as you give the name of the YouTube video, and as long as you use the YouTube URL and you give the date of the video and where and who's published it, you can use video evidence as well if you want to cite what people have said. But in videos on India, there's plenty of evidence that the police are beating people with batons if they are not complying with the shutdown. And of course, the one thing is how people are being beaten up because they are not listening to the shutdown. But the bigger issue is that because the Indian government, Dr. Modi, the president, because there was virtually no warning before they put in place the lockdown, most people don't know what's going on. So another key underlying issue is actually, is there enough communication with the population, and whether during lockdown you should be doing testing, but you should still be doing campaigns around washing your hands and stuff like that, you know. So, and then can I just say one last thing, and that is in relation to one of the articles that we put into that one file, which refers to the issue of, I was happy that you mentioned TRELAC, but how is government going to support people in these instances? That's the one thing. And the other thing is the idea that government might want to move settlements of people into different places. It's not very clear, but what is the state wanting to do? It might want to do things for the best will of communities, but how is that going to work? And, how will people respond? How will people feel? And I know I've said a lot now, but I hope that some of these things might be of interest to you, because really this is also about what you think is important that's happening or not happening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. I will definitely look into some of those things, and especially in some of the, the state and national government, communication and or interactions regarding, setting up laws and all that. So thank you very much.
Andrew?
Yes, Shadu.
Yeah, you in the beginning, I'm not sure, I just didn't hear you quite well. You mentioned that the approach has been narrowed down to like five aspects of the framework, which is medical, movement, and non-pharmaceutical. Does it mean that we must only focus on those things? On that five, I mean.
I'm hoping to. I would like to send out the structure to you before 6 o'clock this evening, and then you will see actually that the 5 sections they cover all of the 18 that we used to have, except they are a section together that deals with movement, or a section together that deals with the army and the police and the state forces, and another section on testing. I think the testing and tracing and quarantining is a really important area. So we're not expecting everybody to cover every single one of those 18 points, but we would like you to have some perspective. Okay, Trebisa, thank you very much. I hope your meeting is good with your boss.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Sorry, sir. Okay, bye.
Take care. So Shadrach, so you don't have to cover all of them. And what I don't know if I suggested earlier that perhaps what you could do is in your first draft is if you just use bullet points for each of the points or the issues that you raise, so that you can see, so that you don't have to be worried about, turning this into a fully fledged text yet. The main thing is we would like to get the different teams to identify and write up a short paragraph or a few lines on each issue, and where each paragraph has got at least one source, so that then from then you can move on to expanding it.
Yeah, okay, it makes sense now.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And Shadrach, are there any other aspects that you would like to raise or questions?
You said you're going to be giving us a template, like sort of a sample that you need to follow, right? So does it mean that you are not following your normal generic research report where you have to outline everything that you're going to be providing, like saving your chapters, not the chapters, but also reading your literature review in the beginning and all the background?
Okay. There is no need for a literature review or a general introduction, because that will be taken care of in the rest of the paper. What's really, if you would like to do an introduction, then it would be a short introduction just about South Africa, maybe 100 words or so. But also, can I say that I don't know if you picked it up, but in Wikipedia, Wikipedia has now got a page on every single country and what's happening with the country with COVID. So that's also something that one can use as a place to check back to see if you're going in the right direction in terms of facts. But we wouldn't want you to use Wikipedia as a source. But the good thing about Wikipedia is you can go to the sources of the Wikipedia article, which you can then use. So that's another option that you can also take up.
Okay, no, it's understood.
Okay. Shadrach, thank you so much for coming to the meeting. If there's anything that you would like to discuss further, please email me. We can always meet briefly on Google. So and good luck. And also, what we will be asking for is for you to have put together a draft by this coming Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay. Bye.